Hey everybody, today we're in Austin, Texas, and I'm with my man Norman Horn here. And so not only is he studying chemical engineering, but he's also studying theology. And you have a website, libertarianchristians.com.
That's right.
And you want to encourage your fellow Christians to be down with liberty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Well, to me, I think that the Christian faith really does emphasize freedom. And it's an incredible theme throughout the Bible. For instance, you know, the slaves that were in Egypt were then released via the power of God. You know, we all know of Moses and the 10 plagues and what we call the Exodus. And so I think there's a strong theme in the Bible of liberty in many regards. So I think that it's really important for Christians to realize this.
So do you think a lot of Christians are down with freedom?
I think in their heart of hearts they really are, but they haven't quite recognized yet that the means by which they think that they are accomplishing it are absolutely counterproductive. You know, for instance, I used to be, I mean, you might call it a so-called Christian conservative. And many conservatives feel like that they are promoting freedom through many of their actions. But really, when it comes down to it, they're not. You know, by starting wars with other nations and by advocating the welfare warfare state, whether it's through social gospel or through revolution in another country that they have no business being in, these are absolutely counterproductive to accomplishing, you know, freedom. Plus, not only that, it's oppression against other people. And so it's a double-edged sword there. Not only are they, you know, counterproductive, they're also causing harm.
Can you point to areas in the Bible, you expressed some earlier, but point to some areas in the Bible that proves your point that God, you know, wants us to be free?
Well, I think that it's hard to say exactly what those passages are. I think, you know, what's more important, I think, for us is that a lot of times people have used the Bible to try and prove that it's okay for the state to do certain things. So, for instance, the big passages that you hear about are Romans 13, which is, you know, the authorities are set by God, and also the render to Caesar what is Caesar's. But when it comes down to it, I think that there's a lot of misinterpretation that goes on there. There are other passages too. For instance, there's a great passage in the prophets that says, proclaim liberty throughout the land. I think ultimately, though, it's not just what's explicitly said, it's a theme that runs through the scripture itself. And I think that ultimately what we find in that is that God is pleased when his people live in freedom.
I see a lot of Christians march in lockstep to support the state of Israel.
Yeah.
Do you have any feelings about this?
Well, you know, I think that Israel was begun, you know, this is not the state of Israel as it was in the Bible. This is an artificially created state. Do they have self-determination now? Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't think that we should be there. I think that we need to pull out and they need to be able to fend for themselves at this point. They've proven that they can, and so let them. You know, they need to solve their own problems. We are not in a position to really be able to do it.
What kind of content can we see at libertarianchristians.com?
Okay, well, I try to write as very, you know, dense articles about theology and about political philosophy and how it relates to the Christian faith. And I think those are some of my most significant things. You can also find book reviews, interviews with people, news tidbits, commentary on current events from a Christian perspective, and then of course, you know, we've even got a few podcasts, got a few video posts. You'll also hear about some of my work in economics. I have a series that got a lot of attention called 10 Things I Hate About Taxes, basically going through a whole lot of different things that why taxes really stink.
Well, they really stink, but should people pay their taxes?
Well, you know, there are a couple ways we can think about this. And for the Christian, you know, you can go back to Romans 13, and Paul at that point does advocate at that time paying your taxes, but why does he do it? And I think the reason why he says pay your taxes is because we don't want to hinder the spread of the gospel. And it's good to be able to peacefully, you know, engage in civil disobedience. But if by your civil disobedience at times you're also hindering the message of the gospel from reaching other people, I think you're making a mistake. And so I think that's an important thing to realize. At least from the Christian perspective, that should be very important to us.
But that tax money could have been used to pay for the uniforms and swords and shields of Roman soldiers to then hinder the spreading of the gospel.
Yeah, but if at that time, what was happening was that if they resisted and didn't try to pay their taxes, or didn't pay the tax that was basically demanded, what would have happened? Well, or actually I should say, what was happening was that a soldier would typically come to their house and say, you're either going to pay this tax or we're going to kill you. So what do you have? What is your choice at that point? And so in what Paul was saying is, don't let this hinder the spread of the gospel now. There will be a time, and I believe there will be a time when the states will eventually be dissolved, and God will reign supreme. But that is not. It's not our job necessarily to I guess, bring that forward out of due course, in a sense. We need to be about the preaching of the gospel and promoting good ideas about liberty as well. I think those two things can work together.
Well, Norman, thank you very much for joining us.